Welcome back to Cards and Comics, and today I am going to be doing a little video about this card trimming scandal or continuation of the scandal that's been around since pretty much the hobby has been around, which is altering cards to make money. And really it has taken off with the advent of grading because now the cards are legitimate when you trim and get them graded by a third party. And so the newest, chapter in this story is, from a bunch of folks on Instagram, Kong's Cards 53. That was, I saw it first on Instagram from multiple people posting, but I went and did some YouTube searches, and surprisingly, the only channel really talking about this, Sports Card Radio, which love them or hate them, they do talk about the good and the bad in the hobby. Mostly bad, not much good. But I took this, as a moment to kind of reflect back on, a prior video where I talked about, why the hobby isn't legitimate. Why can't we get real investors? So, when you've got Lamine James, making multiple memes out of the sports card trimming in our hobby, something's wrong. When it happens so often, it's a joke. It's a meme. It's funny, because we can't fix it. And, you read some of the comments here. Such a bad look for the hobby. Imagine owning a card that was trimmed and finding out later it was trimmed. Yeah, that sucks. That's why the hobby hasn't ever improved. And, and the thing I think that's also sad is you have someone saying, hey, fill me in what's happening because I don't know. And I think when you're in this hobby and you kind of have a 2 or 3 year, into it and you kind of know all these things are happening, you just take it for granted that everyone else knows. And at some point you were a rookie, and these new investors are coming in as rookies thinking that this hobby is cleaned up, and it's really not. And, they talk about Boda, which is blowout cards. People just think it's crap. And, no worries because it's in a 3-letter slab. Yeah, that's the problem, right? So, it's easy to come and talk about problems. Harder to come up with solutions, right? So what I'm going to call upon here is, since the card world is transitioning to our new overlord of Fanatics, I'm going to ask the Fanatics folks to help fix this problem, right? Now, this isn't just a shifting of blame because PSA has their own issues and so does all the other graders. But something that they could do to help everyone is, why don't we start designing cards that trimming is so evident and so easy to figure out that you don't have to guess anymore? Because this new issue, this new scandal, was mostly dealing with modern cards of players like Trey Lance, brand new cards. And when you look at cards, and I'll show a card like this, the back of the card, right? Because, no one wants to mess with the fronts, right? No one wants to make a card ugly by putting something on here that it's easy to tell that there's been something altered. But the back of the cards, who really cares what's on the back, right? And in printing, there's these, ways that they, these alignment marks they put on cards and printing to make the printer, when it's cutting, know, where it should cut, right? And these marks can be measured, right? Lasers can measure the space of that mark and determine where, how to kind of self-correct and get the printing back in line to where it needs to be, right? And these guides, are out there on printing every day, right? What if the cards themselves had some way on the back that had, a guide, so that if you measured, you know, that guide, if it didn't measure a certain, didn't have a certain amount of actual, let's say, length, in totality between the edges, left and right, top and bottom, then you could say, well, you add up that space. If it doesn't add up to be a certain amount, then the card's trimmed. It's very simple. I mean, the idea is like, you can do it through a black box or a line or something. But the thing is that, because I know people are going to say, well, what if the card is miscut or off center a little bit, right? The idea is that it doesn't matter, because of the way you would do it is that no matter, if it's left or right, top or bottom, the sum of the two lines should be the same amount. And if you do that, or the width of the two boxes, right? Top and bottom, left and right. If you then PSA could literally just measure those guides and say, yeah, it's within a tolerance, or it's not. And I know another thing you're going to say is that, well, these micro trimmer guys, these guys who can shave a certain amount off the card, don't need a whole lot of room to operate, and maybe they can operate within some sort of tolerance of the actual machine cut itself. And what I say to that is, that might be true for some things, such as a little bit of edge wear, right? But things like ding corners, you need to take a little bit more of the card off than a micro trim. And so, if you can fix one thing, ding corner trimming, well, that's one thing you fixed. We can plant a flag. We can plant a flag that we fixed one thing, right? And if you start fixing one thing, maybe you can fix another, right? So that's really, and the second thing I was going to bring up is, it's okay, we fixed one thing. We can fix a ding corner, because you have to take off so much of the card that if you had a guide or something that you could measure on the back to determine if it adds up, the card hasn't been trimmed. Well, then what about those, rough edges and kind of the, just the micro haircut so that the edge is smooth now? How can we fix that? I don't know. What if we, had photos of cards? What if the card was packed out in a way that, you had some sort of visual representation of that card through its history, right? I think, it's going to come to that for some of these big cards, right? There's going to be this idea, and I talked about it in my predictions for this year, is around chain of command, chain of authentication, custody, chain of custody. Sorry, not chain of command, chain of custody for the card. That, you're going to have to know something about that card. And I think that's going to start early. I think vaults could actually offer that kind of service, right? If you think about it, these high-end sets, what if National Treasures and Flawless are opened up and went right into a vault where they're cataloged, photographed, and then when they change vaults or change hands, that is one way to say, look, what it looked like at one point in time. And that card has some sort of history. And I think if I was going to be excited about something like blockchain, it would be something around that, around photo historical record of what the card looked like at certain points of the year, right? Certain points of time. 20, what it looked like the year it was made, 2 years later, 3 years later, right? When it changed hands. I think that's sort of for these high-end cards. I think there could be something out there that could fix this, and at least document what the card looks like, because, people talked about what BOTA does. All BOTA does is look at historical sales, photograph evidence to say the card's been altered, because half the Tom Brady shoes missing on the card now. That's not hard to see. And if you had photograph evidence of the card, and you had some, and I know, for example, in my own job, we have computer software that overlays images and determines if something's been altered. And this is something that's used in a lot of industries. For me, I use it a lot in legal. When I'm looking at images and contracts and things that could be altered to falsify records or to make something appear to be, true when it's not. And that's, software is out there that can lay those images over and say, something's different. Something's changed about these two images of the same thing. And I think that technology exists. And so, yeah, I'm saying that there's simple solutions. There's something the manufacturers can do of the cards. There's something that the technology, the chain of command or chain of custody. I don't know, I keep saying chain of command. The chain of custody for the cards could be documented better. All this, because I know no one wants to do this, and it's going to increase things like maybe the cost per box. But honestly, I don't know how much more things could be more expensive today than they already are. So if we actually had some protection built into the cost, I would pay more for it. I mean, I know I would. If I knew, for example, that when I open my case of National Treasures I'm paying $20,000 for, that they're going to be opened up, cataloged, put into a blockchain and in a vault, and so that no one gets to touch those cards until I know what's going on with them. And if I buy that card, I can move it directly to my vault. It doesn't change any hands. It doesn't get into anyone else's, grubby little hands. And then if I send it to PSA, they can go right to that vault, right there, and say, what did that card look like? Here's this image. Here's my image. Has it been altered? Did the person alter that card before it sent to me? Through technology. And that's, for these high-end cards, I think that's where we're going to get to. There's going to be something out there to help with that. And so, yeah, there are solutions. And I'm not saying it's hopeless. But, again, just going back to this issue and having, Kong's Cards 53 trimming a lot of modern cards, having Lamine James, make fun of it in multiple, Instagram post, and not having any real solutions to fix it. It's just bad, And again, the guy who said it's a bad look for the hobby, it really, really is, to not have any solutions for this after so many years. And after having it slap us in the face multiple times. And we're not talking just old cards. We're talking new cards, all cards. This isn't just one part of the hobby. It's all parts of the hobby. So I'm going to leave it with there. Just a quick little thought. But, I think, when our new Hobby Overlords Fanatics takes over, hopefully that team there, hopefully the Lubers of the world address us and quit talking about, drops and what celebrity collaboration they're going to do next. And think about how we're going to protect this hobby. If you really want people invested in this hobby and really dropping some big money, you're going to have to fix this, guys. This is not what people want when they're looking at spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for these modern cards when people just alter and trim them left and right. So we all got work to do. We can do better. I talked about this. We educate each other, collector to collector. PSA can do better. But Fanatics, you can actually solve some of this. So let's get to it and let's get it fixed, guys. All right. That's it for me. I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics.